Welcome to our first professional development in the age of COVID. Today, we're going to be talking about self-care. I have found that the most common and agreed upon definition for self-care is the practice of telling people to breathe in lieu of giving them actual support and resources. Or maybe that's just me and I've been to one too many of these presentations. But seriously, I am hoping that by the end of this presentation, I can convince you how important self-care is for you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who stuck with you. If you watched my introduction video, you already know that I am a social worker for the district, but I'm also a recovering asshole. We'll say critic. My propensity for a knee-jerk eye roll at some of this stuff is more ingrained than I'd like to admit. Don't tell the other social workers. But I do have my master's in social work. I majored in psychology and I minored in communications. I'm highly analytical and data-driven, and I'm well-versed in the biophysiological processes of the central nervous system. So when I say self-care is important, I really do mean it. I'm not going to go far into the weeds on the processes of self-regulation, but if you'd like more information on the research behind this and want to talk, reach out to me and I'd be happy to talk anytime. So, let's address the first eye roll. This is all new age BS, right? Actually, not really. We've had these adages forever. You can't pour from an empty cup. Put on your own oxygen mask before helping those around you. And even Abe Lincoln said if he had 6 hours to chop down a tree, he'd spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. So really, it all just boils down to a balance between caring for yourself and caring for others. When the balance is off, you can neglect yourself. You can lose peace of mind and a sense of control over your own life. You can become frustrated and resentful and even experience personal burnout, which is leaving you with the inability to help anyone, including yourself. I'm going to be doing another video on compassion fatigue where I go deeper into the signs of burnout and the need for boundary setting, but understanding self-care is the fundamental catalyst in creating change in the way you deal with stress in your life. So, why should we commit to self-care? Well, we want to mitigate the effects of chronic stress on our bodies, and we want to create a work-life balance. Just because you think you guys can push through, handle it, man up, or whatever it is you tell yourself. The deep conditioning hair masks, the anti-aging creams, the ibuprofen, the Prilosec, the Tums, or noticing that your memory is not quite as sharp as it used to be, yeah, you could chalk it up to regular signs of aging, but interesting enough, they are all proven symptoms of chronic stress. Chronic stress causes difficulty in concentrating, gives you anxiety, depression, and it can make you irritable, destabilizing your mood and giving you that mind fog feeling. It messes with your cardiovascular health, which puts you at higher risk for heart attack and stroke, as well as high cholesterol and blood pressure. The aches and the pains that you feel could be from increased inflammation, tension, and muscle tightness that chronic stress causes. And it affects your immune system, which increases your risk for getting sick and increases the time it takes to recover from illness and injury. It's terrible for your hair, skin, and nails and can cause or make acne worse. And if you have any issues with diarrhea, constipation, bloating, and pain or discomfort in your gut, it's time to seriously take a look at your stress levels. It can even affect your reproductive system, messing with your libido and make PMS and cramps worse. Yeah, yikes. And remember our metaphors? Well, the person that we were just talking about, they definitely don't have anything in their cup. They wouldn't be able to get a mask on themselves, let alone another person. And poor Abe, well, he's arriving at his tree with a very dull axe. But I left one out, my favorite. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. So, one way we can get a handle on stress and start the process of taking care of ourselves and taking self-care seriously is creating a work-life balance. Working in a school is all about planning and coordination in every department. From getting kids to and from school, keeping our schools clean and running smoothly, feeding our kids breakfast, lunch, and coordinating snack bags to send home, and creating dynamic lesson plans that address the individual needs of every student in the classroom. So, how do we bring this skill into our everyday lives? This is one way to do it. This exercise is called the Wheel of Life, and it's a visible representation of our big picture. So what you do is you look at 7 aspects of your life and you rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. A finished one looks something like this. You're not trying to get each section to look the same. It's more of like a check-in tool to see where you should be paying more attention to and to celebrate the areas where you really feel like you have a good handle on. This is also a great tool for goal setting if you're into that sort of thing. There'll be a link to this with instructions in the document accompanying this video. So we've learned about the effects of chronic stress on our bodies and this mythical thing called a work-life balance. I hear it was created by millennials. But how do we incorporate self-care into our already busy lives? It's easy. Exercise, diet, and mindfulness. And I know this is where I lose you. Stop. Hold on. Hear me out. We've gotten this far, right? So you've already heard this, and I know I'm not telling you something you don't already know. But now we need to look at this in the context of self-care and everything you've learned so far. So let's start with exercise. Exercise breaks down into 2 categories: what you think it is and what it actually is. It's not all or nothing. You don't have to join a CrossFit cult. You don't have to be that guy at the gym who's constantly preoccupied and annoying everybody about making gains. You could decide to run or jog and not train for a marathon every time you think about it. And just so you know, yoga does not look like this for everyone. So the actual requirements for exercise is anything that gets your heart beating faster. The CDC states that an adult needs 150 minutes per week. That's 30 minutes 5 times a week. And before you ask, no, you don't have to do the 30 minutes all at once. You can ride a bike, you could swim, walk your dog, play a sport, garden. It doesn't matter what it is, just move and increase your heart rate. And you also want to do 2 muscle strengthening activities 2 times per week. There will be links to simple body weight exercises as well as ones you can do with dumbbells at home. But when you incorporate exercise in your daily life, it is clinically proven to boost your mood, sharpen your focus, reduce stress, and improve your sleep. Next, we're going to talk about diet, and this will be quick. So, healthy food is good for you. Junk food is bad for you. And when you eat, half of your plate should be vegetables, and the other half should be split between carbohydrates and protein. And pro tip, if you want to stay fuller longer, bump up on the protein and scale back on the carbs. I am not your mom. I am not going to tell you how to eat. You know that when you eat like crap, you feel like crap. And when you eat well, you feel better and you have more energy. So let's move on to mindfulness. Mindfulness is as simple as this. Be here, now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, but in this moment, right now. It breaks down like this. Being in the now, in this moment, is where you'll feel peace. If you're thinking ahead about what could happen or what will happen, that's where you're going to find unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, and pretty much all forms of fear. If your thoughts are in the past and you're thinking about things that have happened, That's where you're going to feel regret, grievances, sadness, bitterness, non-forgiveness. Peace, the feeling of calm and contentment, is in the present. Anxiety lives in the future, and depression lives in the past. So how does it work? How do you stay in the here and now? Meditation. Fight the eye roll. All it actually means is give your brain a break. So there are tons of techniques, so many in fact that personally that I know a staunch critic of all things spiritual can find a couple that work. I will provide you with links to give you a jumping off point so you can decide which rabbit hole you feel like going down. But right now I'm going to cover a grounding technique, some basic breathing exercises, and a very abridged version of why having some control over your thoughts works to reduce your stress. So what is grounding? Grounding is a way to bring you back into the moment when things are feeling out of control. It's commonly used for anxiety and panic attacks. But seriously, do we really need to get that far gone before we use it? It's simple. All you do is pay attention to your 5 senses. So name 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Now, don't get tied up on the number of things on the list. Honestly, it's just a trick to pull your focus. This technique is to bring your thoughts out of the future or the past and back into the here and now. Next is breathing. There is so much to the why of this and the physiological components of how the way you breathe affects your central nervous system. But I'll break it down to you like this. We have all heard about fight, flight, or freeze. This happens when your body hits the panic button for you with or without your authorization. Controlling your breathing is a way to hack your body back into a regulated state. I personally use the technique of dropping my breathing down to 5 breaths a minute. Now, this is not as weird as it seems. All you do is breathe in for 5, pause, breathe out for 5, pause. And you do that 5 times. And so I set an alarm on my phone, and for every hour, I do 1 minute of this breathing. It has been the single most effective thing that I have tried for staying regulated throughout the day. Here are 3 other techniques you can try. The first one is called box breathing. So it's very simple. You breathe like a box. You breathe in for 5, you hold for 5, you breathe out for 5, and then you hold no breath in your lungs for 5. There's a lot more to this one. This is called 4-7-8 breathing. So how it works is having your exhale longer than your inhale will tell your vagus nerve to tell your brain that things are chill and to stop freaking out. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the weeds on all of this, but just know it really works. So on this one, you want to inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, and exhale for 8 counts. Lastly is belly breathing. Look at it this way. Your lungs are balloons with the most mass at the bottom, right? And if you try to fill them up in your chest against your rib cage, you are not optimizing the space. Expanding your belly when you breathe in allows for the lower part of your lungs to fully expand, and in turn, squeezing your belly in on the exhale will force more air out of your lungs and get rid of more carbon dioxide, allowing for more space to bring in the oxygen on the next breath. Now let's talk about how controlling our thoughts, or at least having some control over them, can really help us work with dealing with our stress levels. Your thoughts are so powerful. They can be your best friend and motivating cheerleader, or your worst enemy and sabotaging critic. This might be new and even contrary to what you've always thought, but emotions are actually symptoms of the way you're thinking. And since that's the case, our emotions guide our perceptions, and then our perceptions prove our thinking. And the way you perceive the world is your reality. So can you see how your thought process can really muck things up? It's basically confirmation bias. And it's a common cognitive distortion that we all fall victim to. And yes, I'll be doing another video on those as well. But it breaks down like this. You think everything sucks. So you only look for things that suck. You find lots of things that suck, because you're looking for them. And you confirm to yourself that, in fact, everything actually does suck, and you were right. But this is where self-care comes in. Realistic exercise, eating right, for the most part, and using meditation techniques will ultimately lead you to being more capable of dealing with everyday stress. So that's it. Self-care. I hope I have convinced you how important it is. And seriously, check out the links in the document. Make it fun, like a choose your own adventure. Until next time, breathe now that you know how. You've got this.